Today we're going to do a string test and review for the 2025 Yonex Ezone 100, trying to see what's the best string that's compatible with this racket for its speed, spin, and power. So the first string up is the Polytour Rev 16 gauge white, and the tension is 54 pounds. And what I notice about this string is it's advertised as having an infused coating, a silicone oil inside the material that really creates a fast snapback. And if you don't know what a snapback is, it's when you hit the ball, the strings move and then they snap back to their original position. And these strings really do snap back very fast. I found really good pocketing at 54 pounds. Normally I'm a little bit less, but I wanted to try 54 pounds because I'd heard that the Ezone 100 has some control issues when you're trying to hit with a little more speed and power. But with these strings, I didn't really notice having too many problems keeping the ball on the court. And once again, I'd just like to say, overall, the string is very comfortable and it's very durable. It lasted at least, I'm going to guess, 10 hours of solid play before I could kind of feel a little bit of loss of play, a little bit of loss of action. But serving the ball with spin and speed, it was easier to actually hit with spin with this combination than with the flatter serve. The racket and the string combo really wants to hit a nice slice second serve. So that's what I found on with this particular string. In particular, the ability to spin the ball, but when you go to flatten it out and hit a bigger ball, it didn't really seem to have a lot of problems with that either. Hitting volleys with the racket, I found it very stable. With the string, I found it very stable. A lot of action with the strings, so I didn't really see any issues with the volley with this string at all. So my scores for the Polytour Rev 16 gauge at 54 pounds. Comfort, I gave it an 8. It was a very comfortable string. Spin, I gave it a 7.5. Control, I gave it a 6.5. Power, I gave it an 8.0, and that kind of goes with the control. With the power comes control problems. And so while the string offered plenty of power, there were some issues with control. The serve, I rated a 7.5, really good access to slice and kick serves. And the volley, I gave it a solid 7.0. So that's the overall rating for the string. And now next up, we're going to take a look at the Polytour Pro Rev 17 gauge. So next up, we take a look at the Yonex Polytour Rev 17 strung at 52 pounds. Now with this string, you can see it's got the bright orange color to it. But with this string here, I noticed a few things right away. One was the control. It seemed like the control with this string was not as accurate, shall I say, as with the Polytour Rev 16 gauge. And I'm not sure why it was different. I get 17 gauge because I like the ball pocketing where the string kind of wraps around the ball, but I couldn't really feel it with this setup with the Ezone 100. I couldn't get the sensation of ball pocketing. So while the racket still had plenty of power, I did notice right away balls flying longer. Even when I'm putting more topspin on it, the balls were flying long, and it was just sort of an unusual experience with this. It was the first time I used this racket where the string really felt different with this racket. And I've used the Polytour Rev string on the on my V-Core Pro, and I really didn't have too many problems with balls sailing long. But for some reason with this racket, the ball seems to go longer. It flies longer. I thought in the beginning it was just I was getting used to the racket and the strings, but over the last few weeks or so playing with it, I did notice that I was becoming much more reliant on a big spin and a big spin serve versus more flatter balls and flatter serves, mainly because the racket, I just couldn't control it. It was just all over the place. And so I think for me on the Polytour Rev 17 gauge, I would say the biggest issue for me was control. I just couldn't get the racket to control the ball the way I wanted it to. And what ended up happening is I was playing a match, and I came up for a volley, and the guy hit the ball pretty hard, and it actually broke the string. And so that set me on a course of what's my next string. So my scores on the Polytour Rev 17 gauge orange, strung at 52 pounds. The comfort, I gave it a 7.5. Still comfortable, but not quite as comfortable as the Polytour Pro 17 gauge. The spin was 7.5. Good spin. Control, I was actually down on this for some reason with this string. I lowered the score to 6.0 on control. Power was still at 8.0. The serve, 7.0, and that's again mainly because the inability to have a consistent flat serve. And then the volley at a 6.5, still a good string to volley with, but just wasn't quite there on the pop at the net. So we've looked at the Polytour Rev 16 gauge, Polytour Rev 17 gauge, and now today the last string that we're going to look at is going to be the Polytour Pro 17 gauge. This is a little bit different string than the first two, and I strung this one at 53 pounds, and it is a blue string. And so let's do a quick review on that and see where we stand. One of the first things I noticed when hitting with this string is you get that distinct pop and that sort of resonant sound that I wasn't really experiencing with the Polytour Rev. And again, I don't know if that's just how the strings are set up on this racket, but it seems like 53 pounds and a full bed of Polytour Pro 17 gauge seems to work pretty good. I did notice immediately it was because of that popping sound and potentially a little more spin. The balls did not seem to fly as long, and it could be because I went a pound higher, and so at 53 pounds it settles into 52, where with the other two Polytour Revs I started at 52 and went down to 51. But right now at 53 for this string seems to be a pretty good combination. Definitely a good control, definitely good spin. The good news is with this racket in string control is the serve. On the serve, the racket really lays into that flat serve as well as really a crisp slice serve. And so I'm really pleased with this Polytour Pro 17 gauge strung at 53. It seems like a really good combo for this racket. And again, these are all straight beds. They're not hybrids. They're just straight strings, which at the lower string tensions, 52, 51, 53, very comfortable. So if you have arm problems you can actually run a full string bed without doing hybrid setups. And of course, if you like hybrid setups, I'm not saying don't do it, but it's not as necessary with the string because it is pretty comfortable. So overall, again, I was really pleased with this string, even over the Polytour Rev. So at this point, out of the 3 strings that I tried, which was the Polytour Pro, which is this string, and the Polytour Rev 16 and 17 gauge, I think my vote's going to go with the blue string, the Polytour Pro, mainly because it seems to give me really good access to spin and speed, but also the ability to flatten the shot out if I want without punishing me too much by taking the ball long. So that would be my vote. And then we'll take a look at the scores. Let's see what the scores are. So the Polytour Pro 17 gauge blue string at 53 pounds. I gave it a comfort level of 8. Again, it's a very comfortable racket, very comfortable string with this racket. It's a very good combination. For the spin, I gave it an 8, which access to spin with any of these strings is never really a problem. The difference though was I gave control 7.5, which is up, I believe, from the other 2 strings, and it's mainly because this string appears to have a little bit more ability to flatten the shot out, and as well as hit with spin. So you can hit with top spin, you can hit flat, and you can also hit in between, which I didn't really find a lot with the other 2 strings. So this string, at least for me, gives me a little bit better control. Power level's the same, 8.0, still plenty of access to power with this string. The serve also went up to an 8.0, and again, mainly because the ability to hit a flat serve, a bigger flat first serve with this string setup. And then the volleys were the same at 7.0. So all in all, I picked the Polytour Pro 17 gauge blue, strung at 53 pounds, as at least my favorite string for the 2025 Yonex Ezone 100. Please like and subscribe if you find this content helpful. Share it with someone who may find this helpful as well. And as always, I will see you on the court. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.